Good evening and welcome once again to another new session of Times Ascent. I'm Avik Das and I will be a moderator for the next 1 hour. And today we will be discussing not from the employees' point of view, but from the employers' point of view. And so we'll be discussing about effective campus hiring strategies for today. Now, companies hope to attract the cream of the crop when it comes to the next generation of workers and targeting potential candidates as early in their new careers as early as possible through campus recruitment. The recruitment is incredibly, of course, competitive. And if you hope to compete for top graduates, you need to really, top up your campus recruitment and devise effective strategies. We have with us three esteemed panelists who will be able to throw further light on these strategies. There is Dr. Ankita Singh, who's the Senior Vice President and Global Head of Human Resources, spanning across high-paced business domains of ITES. She has excelled in establishing innovative and competitive initiatives and institutionalizing a strong performance-driven culture at Signet, which has resulted in the company being certified as a great place to work between 2017 and 2021. Welcome on board, Ankita. Great to have you with us.
Thank you so much, Avik. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. Then we have Dr. Jessie Christine, who is the Chief Delivery Officer for India Operations at Massader HR Services. Jessie is an HR leader with a total experience of almost 3 decades in this industry across all facets of human resources arena. He's got a diverse variety of exposure working with companies such as NTT Data, Philips, Cambridge Solutions, Nest Technologies, and Hinduja Global Solutions, apart from Ascent Consulting. Apart from this, of course, welcome on board, Jessie. Also, great to have you with us once again.
Thank you, Avik.
And lastly, we have Dr. Soumya Badgayan, who is the General Manager of Corporate Strategy, HR, and IR at Gold Star Jewelry. Soumya has 20 years of corporate experience in the field of sales, marketing, corporate strategy, and HR, with complete knowledge about all the segments of the various markets in the field of luxury products, jewelry, sales, human behavior, and their countless interplays and ramifications. She has been leading the HR strategist functions for employee business unit, including training and onboarding, performance management, retention, and development and benefits. Great to have you this evening with us, Soumya.
Thank you. Pleasure is up.
Great to have all of you with us. Let me set the tone for today's panel discussion. I'll probably throw a couple of questions to all of you and take your views one at a time, or there will be a couple of questions that where I will be seeking opinions from all three of you. Does that sound okay?
Perfect.
Great, perfect. Let's go ahead then. Let me start the first question with you, Ankita. How do you think let's put it this way, how was the campus recruitment for this year? I mean, can you throw some light on this? And I ask this entirely based upon the pandemic-driven scenario.
Sure, Avik. I think, recruitment, if we talk in a holistic point of view, I think it has drastically changed. But campus recruitment got affected most. With the changing landscape of economy, I think scenario of campus recruitment has evolved. Obviously, there was a break in between. The entire process has changed. We all know that technology has been the game changer during the lockdown period, during the COVID period. Primarily, what are the reasons? Maybe, obviously, there was a dip in the economy. There were systems which were put on hold. So that was the time. There was a phase when we talk about a few months back, but now I think things are back to normal. But in the sense, when we talk about scenario or process, I think it's more influenced by hybrid model. Earlier, when we used to hire students directly from campus, there was a belief that they'll come to the organization, they'll get trained for a certain period, and then they'll be working with us. Wherein even when we talk about millennials these days, they are also preferring a hybrid model of working, where they wish to work from anywhere. Now, remote hiring is a new norm where online assessment and virtual interviews are what we end up, talking about. There are few cases where companies would still go ahead and they would want to keep the, face-to-face recruitment side alive as well. But it is virtual. When we talk about the current scenario, it is virtual for most of the cases. When today we talk about freelancing, contract, gig, it has become part of the regular new normal, and it is not only confined to the people who are already out in the industry, but it is also same for the new hires or the freshers that we talk about. Today, organizations are much leaner looking at the current situation, looking at the current scenario. With companies becoming leaner, there will be an exception to expectation to work cross functionally, and people who would be able to perform or work beyond their defined scope, there will be much more possibilities and opportunities for them. And because of that, the entire recruitment scenario or the process have been redefined so that they can actually help in enabling the process and the requirement of the organization. So in total, if you ask about the current scenario, I would say it's nimble, it's adaptive. As you rightly said, it's challenging. But at the same time, when we talk about campus recruitment, it's progressive. It is creating its own mix as per the individual organizations and the kind of policies and processes they would want to take up. We are all in recovery mode when few of employers, they were interviewed and they were asked. They said 42%, which was December quarter, 42% of them, they said that they'll be back to the normal pre-COVID state as far as campus recruitment is concerned. When they were asked again the same question in the last month, which was February, the percentage went up to 71%. So that's the change, or that's the acceptance level that we have witnessed. And according to me, I think that's the current status of the campus recruitment in India, at least.
Okay, okay, great. One question, just a follow up, and before I'll also take that one to Jesse as well. Do you think that this has been a seismic year in when it comes to campus recruitment at the Indians, the colleges and the postgraduate and the universities?
I'm sorry, I missed that word. Do you
Is,
think
the,
this has
is,
been?
this, is, is this a seismic year? It's one of those years that will probably redefine the way campus recruitments are done, the way companies look at new talent going ahead.
Absolutely, Avik. I think for almost all the cases, this is the year where we have redefined. But I would say that whatever we have introduced or whatever we have involved or included in the system this year, probably it will not go away when the situation changes and we are back to normal. If we particularly talk about COVID, lot of that we have learned, lot of that we have adopted will stay in the system, and each organization, after understanding their own capabilities and their strengths, or probably incapabilities and the weaknesses, they would define what will be the right mix they would want to continue with.
Got it, got it. Thank you, Ankita. Yeah, Jesse, moving over to you. What are your takes? How do you think this year sort of shapes or reshapes the way campus recruitment is done, the way companies look at talent hiring, the way probably they model the future job interviews or campus interviews? How do you think this all stacks up going ahead?
Yeah, I think in my view, see, traditionally, the freshers used to compete with maybe the previous batch, right? When you talk about the freshers recruitment, whether it is campus recruitment or off-campus recruitment, if 2020 batches out in the market or 21 batches just coming out, normally these freshers will have some bit of an overlapping. It is a matter of overlapping between only 2 years, 2 academic years. Now what has happened is, with the current situation, actually a lot of experienced people have lost their jobs. Okay, as recent as yesterday evening, I got a call from a very senior person whose salary was close to about 1 lakh plus in hand. He has seen some of my recent advertisements in various platforms asking for entry level recruiters. Okay, Now he is calling and telling, I'm willing to join. Now I'm saying at the entry level, I may offer something around max around 20 or 25,000 take home salary. He is telling it's okay for me. Now the question is, as an employer recruiting talent, I may be little bit hesitating initially to recruit that 30 years experienced person against a fresher. But if more such people are willing to offer themselves, I don't mind trying out. I don't mind experimenting, because advantage for me is, of course, there could be challenges, issues. People may come with some baggage. It may be difficult to get work done from sometimes experienced people. At the same time, I can also try and get the work done, especially in the current scenario, because they are willing to come either on a full-time basis or on a contract or on a temporary basis as a consulting mode, because they are desperate to get a job right now to retain the family situation. So this is a real threat in my view for the freshers who are looking for a job. This is an important thing which freshers should realize. Secondly, there are related challenges when we look at the technology-based hiring which is happening right now. Earlier, I go to a campus, recruit and come back. Maybe the company has to invest one day in a campus, you finish certain offers and you come back. Currently, with this online interviewing, what is happening is there is a long delay which is happening in the whole process. There is a first round technical test which is going on for a few hours. To ensure that 50 or 100 or few hundreds of people can finish the test, you need to give maybe half a day or one day's time. Then the results will come out. You have to look for the technical panel. So the same campus recruitment which was happening maybe one day in a campus, second day in the next campus, that is being shifted to a virtual model, which is kind of convenient for the company. At the same time, the process is very much delayed now. Sometimes it goes for a 1 week process. By the time the students are not sure whether to attend this company, that company, these are some of the challenges which employers are also facing right now. At the same time, this is the right time to hire people, right? As I told in the beginning, you get all kinds of talent, trained people, freshers. You can pick and choose whom you want to recruit. So this is a situation. So from the employees' point of view, students' point of view, they should be more alert now. They should not be saying, I want this salary to join. That salary is not there in the market anymore. My last year's batch senior got this particular CTC. I am willing. That job is not there at all in the market right now. So instead of wasting time for 3 months, 6 months, you don't know, right? Maybe you can't give a gap for 2 years to get the first job in your life. So it's a very dynamic situation. It's very important to get a job and keep moving. That's what I would say.
Very relevant points made, Jesse, and I'll take some of those points and get those next questions to Soumya. What Jesse said. Do you think that companies right now are in a better position to sort of bargain with the employees or with these new hirees, in terms of leveraging their position and saying that, look, this is the best that I can offer you, take it or leave it, rather than the in the previous years where obviously the students would have maybe an upper hand.
So I would say yes to that, Avik. Yes. From being an employee market, the whole dimension and whole dynamics has shifted to being an employer market. Like both my co-panelists, Ankita and Jesse, have pointed out very clearly and crisply, it is now a talent which was available at, suppose, a cost. An experience is also available at that cost also. Second, what is happening in the campus today is everything has become online, be it an IIM or anywhere else. So there's a casualness that has crept in a system. Now, when you see the students, like when you see the students who were there and the academic rigor that they went through, vis-a-vis the students that have learned online, there are no contemporaries talking to each other, and that's where the whole, the brilliance and the whole opening of the mindsets happened. All right, you are mostly forced into confinement, and the uni learner is coming to the fore. Now, when learning can never happen with a single individual. It has to be, various components that come together. So yes, that's there. Second is that it is becoming a very complicated system. Technology is there. It is just a platform. For us, coming from a manufacturing background, and that too from the luxury, it is very difficult to actually, ascertain someone's skill sets, especially someone's soft skill sets when it comes to design element on an e-model. You cannot do that on a platform. It's very easy for you to evaluate a programmer. You write a program, send it back, someone from the technical team evaluates it and sends it back. How would you evaluate a design element? All right, unless and until there are various dimensions that are defined. So a ring, when it is expanded, can look like a 6 feet big ring, because the power of expansion that this is. So the reality is somewhere getting lost. So that's the second, impact that the technology has given. And the third thing that I feel is that definitely, there is a huge shift that is happening even in the mindset. There is the employers also. I have seen as saying, if you remember the old Nirma advertisement, Lalita ji, jab wahi safedi kam daam mein mile to koi ye kyun le, ye na le. So that's what is happening. That
True,
is what
true.
is absolutely happening. So people are, this is something that both the sides are taking a huge advantage of. Let's see who wins. But at the end of the day, the talent will prevail. That's what I believe.
Of course, I'll come to the talent part, because of course, I mean, what I understand from talking to a lot of these headhunting firms, a lot of tech companies, of course, there's going to be a war for talent. That's for sure. I mean, at least in 2021 and the years ahead. But tell me one more thing, Soumya. How do you overcome those challenges? What you mentioned, that it's easy. I mean, it's probably relatively easy when you do a interview for a tech company. I mean, you write a program. There is somebody to evaluate. When it comes to a company like you, which is into manufacturing, how do you actually ascertain those soft skills or those design skills? How do you sort of overcome those challenges? How did you overcome those challenges last year when it came to recruiting fresh heads?
So what we did was, we again, like Ankita also pointed out, we again went into the hybrid model. So we were seeing and screening things, on the e-platform, and from there on, we were calling for the portfolios. Then we were screening those portfolios, either taking a printout and things like that, and screening them, in the physical world, and then calling them also at a location, and our people used to go there. So now there were restrictions to travel. But if someone could travel to a location closer to them, then we would arrange for a pool of resources at that point, and then we would test them on their skills. So this is how we were, trying to amalgamate both the sides of, the technology and the physical world, and bringing out a solution. It was not easy, believe me, it was not easy, because agar travel restrictions are there for one party, it was equally there for the other party as well. So that was really, really difficult. But then somehow we managed to do that. And yes, we did huge hiring, because Gold Star is also under massive expansion. So we are doing,
How many employees did you hire last year? I'm rather this fiscal.
124 alone, and today we are going to 167, and the blue collar is going up to 786.
Okay, and which are those institutes? I'm not too sure of this, but you can sort of throw light. Which are those major institutes that you hire from?
So we went to IIM Sirmaur, IIM Amritsar, we went to Sri Balaji. So we are going to tier, we have segregated to, various levels. So these are the institutes primarily. We went to IMI Kolkata as well. So we're doing all those hiring from such places.
Got it. Perfect. Thank you, Soumya.
We went to NIFT, and then we also went to Pearl Academies and all these kind of institutes for the design.
Okay. Great. Ankita, coming to you, what do you think, what should companies be, what are some of the strategies that they should be deploying, or they may have deployed even this year as well, to lure the best candidates? How do you, sort of throw the dice and get the best talents?
I think Avik, Soumya beautifully mentioned, actually, you have to be visible, you have to be there. Whatever you wish to offer, and at the same time, what you want to get from them, it has to be clearly communicated so there's no gap. Now, employer branding becomes really important, and I would say that becomes the first priority, because when we talk about fresh grads, and we know that They are very active on social media. They are very concerned about what is written about the company on Glassdoor platform. So we really need to ensure that our employer branding is taken care. So what, how, when, where, all should be proactively answered. It's not that it should only happen when we are actually in front of them to talk about the hiring process or why we need them. Brand recall becomes equally important. Your values, your company culture, all those things should be evident in front of them. And that's one thing that all companies are doing. And the organizations, those are proactive with this, or people who are beautifully able to manage it. I think it becomes 80% easy for them to attract, the talent. At the same time, we have a habit of going as per the current trend. Now, there is no harm. Obviously, a lot of people have done researches, and that's how the trend gets defined. But it's really equally important to understand your organization and obviously take those trends up, but personalize and make them yours. So be it your process, innovate relevant, nimble, simple and accurate processes so that you stand out from the crowd, give the comfort, clarity, and timely response to the people who are interested in joining your companies, and you keep the process simple and straight. So that's the second point. Third point, I would say we generally get into a habit of showing too much of social media dependency where we post and we pray. Probably we'll have to change that approach a little bit where we have to use technology to that level where we have more interactive and engaging tools to have that two-way communication. um, you track all the channels, measure and improve. The person who has applied or who is interested in joining your organization, and if that person comes in your top talent category, trust me, there are so many people who are already waiting to ensure that they join their organization. So a data driven system that can tell you about each case, that helps you make your processes more personalized than generalized, will definitely be a hit. So employer branding, going with the trend, but personalizing as per the requirement of your organization and the target people you wish to hire. And then second, with the use of technology, ensure that your tools and platforms are interactive, engaging, where you are able to communicate in a two-way. So don't post and just pray, but be there, be actively there.
Got it. Did you personally go to campus hiring this year?
No, we managed it virtually this year.
Oh no, but you were directly involved in that, right? And I wanted to know that.
Yes, yes.
Yes. So what could be, some of those things that you can share with us at least? What were some of the concerns, probably, if there were concerns in the first place, that were raised by the students, when you went across universities or MBA colleges? What were some of the concerns that they voiced? I mean, when it came to virtual interviews.
So, as far as the process is concerned, Avik, I don't think there were too many concerns. But there is a different charm, there's a different magic when you physically go and interact with students. They
Correct.
see you in front of you and in front of them. They have that freedom to ask questions, ask follow-up questions, know more about your organization. They get the time to sit and interact with you and understand about your processes, about your projects at length, which is a little bit of emotional side, which definitely cannot be you know taken to that level when we talk about virtual processes. So when I say purely recruitment process, I don't think we faced any challenges or any complaints from students. In fact, they were more happy because our systems were much faster. We were able to reward. We have created an app where they could actually see the progress they were able to track. At the same time, they were able to chat with us. So those things really made it easy. The only difference they felt was the physical presence. And at the end of the interview, the only request that we received from their side, we wish to see you guys here as early as possible. So, yeah.
Okay, but I don't think that's probably happening anytime soon. I mean,
Yeah.
it was virtual onboarding, and it will probably remain virtual for the next few months.
Yeah, a
Sure.
few colleges started, Avik, but yes, looking at the current situation, they have again stopped. Otherwise, we went to a couple of colleges for a few sessions, and they were very
Okay.
sure that they would start with campus as well.
Okay, I see. Wonderful, wonderful. Jesse, the next question to you, and this is just a sort of an extrapolation what I asked Ankita. You know, you hired. There were physical interviews, and now we have virtual interviews. Uh, what difference does it make, or whether there is any difference from the employer's point of view to choose the best candidate? Like, do you understand everything about the candidate, or is it possible to understand? I mean, know everything about the candidate from a virtual interview rather than a face to face one.
Yeah, Avik, ideally, we would love to do a face-to-face interview, but looking at the current situation, obviously there is no other choice. Now, is it possible to assess everything what we expect from a candidate through online mode? Answer is no. I would like to share some of the interesting incidents we had. We were trying to do a select list of students from Manipal Institute of Technology. They have MBA in healthcare management course. So I was looking for a few people in healthcare side to be recruited into my team. So I spoke to some of the students out there and I said, okay, during this time I will speak. Now, they had some connectivity issue. Initially, I did a call. I just assessed whether the person is meeting my requirement or not. Then I told, okay, I would like to do a WhatsApp video call, right? At least I want to see the person because first round screening is done. I want to get a feel of the person now, right? You need to see the body language and at least see the person's face, whether the person is understanding what you are saying, etc., etc. Plus, we want to ensure that somebody else doesn't come to join, right? The traditional old problem, right? People going to US probably 25 years back, 30 years back had this challenge, right? Somebody will take the interview and another person will go and report. So to avoid all these things, now I had some very interesting experiences of interviewing candidates who had to go to a paddy field or background is like a paddy field where the connectivity is better. Now, as an employer, as a person trying to recruit a candidate, I should be empathetic about the situation of the candidate, right? I should be able to, I cannot follow the traditional rules like, okay, the person is speaking like this, looking like this, right? Standing like this, the facial expression is like this. I should just take away all those preconceived ideas about what I am expecting. I should be able to understand, be with the person because I want to hire that person. Another interesting thing, what I did differently was, normally as an interviewer, you keep asking questions. This time, now I am explaining about my process, explaining about my company because I want to hire the person, right? I'm not looking at rejecting, I'm looking at selecting. So the mindset is, I want to ensure I speak about all the things about the organization, about the role, about the career growth, about everything in the organization. And I'm also telling the interview processes. First round, so and so will speak. Second round, so and so will speak. And my headquarters is based in UAE right now. So there will be a call from my colleague in Abu Dhabi. A fresher should be prepared. That is a process we have right now. Imagine in the current situation, third round or fourth round, you receive a call from Abu Dhabi and you are in a paddy field trying to get the connectivity. I mean, it's very challenging, but you need to be aware of the situation because if I were facing that situation as a student, I would definitely expect the employer to understand my situation. So these are some of the different kinds of learning which I have picked up. So
Okay.
given this situation, more than selecting the best, I would like to select a candidate. How do I ensure that the person comes to join me? For that, what I should do to prepare the person to clear the interviews, to give every information possible because they have to get permission from the parents to relocate to Bangalore. I am speaking to candidates who are in Mangalore, Manipal area, Udupi. During this pandemic situation, the parents should be willing to trust me. A lot of girls left these locations and came and joined us in Bangalore, even in the last few months, right? Incidentally, we are working from office now. We are not working from home. Every person is working in the office, so it takes lot of efforts to convince the family, convince the student they need a job, but is it the right time to travel? These are all questions which we should be willing to prepare and help them. I have spoken to some parents also, just to give them the comfort. We will take care, nothing to worry. I have tied up with PGs very close to my office. All these things probably 1 year back I didn't do. I have tied up with PGs for girls close to my office, so I am telling them in advance, you call this number, this is the rate. So every possible thing if you do, trust me, you will get the right kind of candidate who can join you.
Okay, okay, wonderful. I think this was the same point. I mean, when it comes to empathy, I heard the exact similar point being made last week when I was moderating another webinar, and the HR lady who was there, and she said that from the company's perspective, probably we need to look at the ones whom we are recruiting, at least virtually. I mean, with a lot more empathy than we probably would have done when we would have done a face-to-face interview, because we need to understand, appreciate, and realize the circumstances in which they are. I mean, they probably are not in the best, let's say, best office environment, of course, because they're in their homes. There will be lots of disturbances at the back. So it's more about selecting rather than rejecting these candidates. Great points, Jesse. Moving over to you, Soumya. Let's come to that war for talent that we were discussing. How do you think it's going to shape up in the next 1 year? What sort of let's say war for talent do you see this time, and how do you think it's going to shape up in the next 12 months?
Well, there was always a war for talent, whether it was in today's.
Of course it was.
So,
But
we were
everybody says it's just going to get worse.
Yeah. So I wouldn't say that it is going to get better or worse, but I would say that it is going to change for sure. And how the change is going to happen is that when you try to balance the ecosystem around you. So whether you want, I would say that it is a balance between enthusiasm and experience. The newbies bring in the enthusiasm and the oldies bring in the experience. And there has to be a beautiful fusion in the system for both to play their part. So this is irrespective of how much you're paying, because that shouldn't be the way, or that shouldn't be the only motivating factor for the person to walk in your premises. So I always say that, I count the 3 P's: pesa, power, and position. These are the 3 P's that I always say. So if I take away one of the P's, especially if I take away the pesa, would you still be wanting to go and be associated with that organization? So that's where the war happens, because this is something that you're communicating day in and day out. And that's what Dr. Ankita also said is all about the employer branding. So as long as you're visible, jo dikhta hai wo bikta hai. So as long as you're visible, as long as you're there, as long as your work is being showcased as an organization, as long as the culture is there, which gives equal opportunity to everyone to grow, and there is a fair play in the system, this war would be a fair war. It wouldn't be an unfair war. So what we are actually aiming at is creating a very fair war, as fair as possible, because no system can be 100% fair, but bringing, as close to the fairness quotient as possible as the system could get. So yes, there is going to be a war. There would be wars with 2 batches, senior, 3 batches, junior, this, there. In fact, a lot of expats are also coming back home. So you're getting those talents as well. Because people are very scared to be outside, wherein if they are in India, they feel that at least family is going to be there to take care of them during the pandemic. So they're coming back home, and that is a big lure for them. So they're compromising on salaries. They're compromising on luxuries, and they're willing to stay with any organization that could be in their hometown and as their home base. People are willing to go the gig way. I will earn 70% from here, 20% from there, and 10% from something else. People are willing to do that. So it is how open is the organization to absorb all this, and to say that, as long as there is a no compete clause in the system, as long as there is no pilferage of IPs happening within the system, I think you should allow people to work at a pace that they are comfortable in. So that's what I would firmly say.
Weighing the situation between, let's say, experienced people who may have lost their jobs and take a pay cut and finally compromise on the salary and join another company, and on the other hand, on the one hand we have this, on the other hand we have freshly recruits, or wannabe recruits who are there? Is it I mean, what makes sense for these companies? Would you prefer to hire the experienced guys at a lesser salary, or would you want to take the newbies, like, or and does that strategy sort of have an impact on your campus hiring at the end of the day?
So I would say that again, it is inbuilt in the organization and the need of the organization. Sometimes when you open a job, it can have that a newbie can come and do, and you can give, say probably 6 months of training period to probably a year and a half of a training period. It depends on the complexity of that job. Someone joining a strategy would need, 1.5 years of rigorous training, because you need to expose the person to various department. Wherein someone coming and suppose just getting in a manufacturing, just second department, something like that, would need just a 6 months. Now, where is this job opening, and where you want to peg the talent in? So this plugging in and pegging in needs to be evaluated very, very critically. Now, someone who's already experienced coming in a strategy position will dilute the 1.5 years of process and will shorten it. So that makes sense for the organization. But the person will also have some preconceived notion. So you have to break, unmold, and remold the thoughts. And there would be always a friction in the system, wherein a newbie coming in would be more receptive, more moldable, and more open to learning, because that mind is a virgin mind.
Absolutely.
So that's where the difference would be. So what is it that the organization is willing to, put on the table as a stake? I'm willing to create, I'm willing to look at the friction right at the in the face, but I want the time to be shortened, or I'm willing to, go ahead and give this much of time in nurturing the talent, and then I know that that talent is going to give me some leverage in the future. So that's
Okay.
where.
Got it. Great points, Soumya. Moving over to you, Ankita. You mentioned right at the beginning about gig hires happening at campus recruitments as well, and it's not just maybe at the lateral hires. Can you elaborate a bit on this, because this seems really interesting? Are companies even at the campus recruitment levels, are company offering gig working options?
Yes, because see, the requirement is such when we talk about gig workers, if at all you have few profiles in the organization where you would need a temp fix, right? You have a project which would not take more than 3 months, or you have a particular role in that project which would not take more than 4 hours a day. Now, it doesn't make sense to hire a full timer for that particular role. So when you have trainable talent pool available, even as freshers, I don't think companies might. And if I take particularly example of my organization, we have taken freshers and we have trained them, and they started working as shadow resources where they were partially built. And later they took over the entire profile, and they were just working for 3 hours a day or 6 hours a day from their, work as in home, and they were parallelly working on a couple of other projects as well within our organization, and few were working somewhere else as a shared resource. And companies, they have their own NDAs, they have their own policies to ensure that these kind of arrangements are possible, because as you rightly said, empathy is the key word, and where organizations also understand that we can't wait for a time when these freshers can be recruited as a full timer, and that till the time we actually reach that normal stage, they should just wait. So we initiated with that process, and that's a hit. And I think we are in that process still, where we are hiring freshers, or we have converted our interns to a project trainee, and we are utilizing them for such kind of requirements. So gig
Okay.
definitely.
But what would be the incentive, for a campus recruit to actually join a company or join a project which is on a part-time basis, or maybe on a fixed hour basis, or maybe on a temp basis? Like, if I
So
am joining from a campus, I would like to get into a full-time job with a full month of salary, at least initially for the first few years. Before, I mean, the period during which I would use to hone my skills and upskill myself, and then probably a few years down my career path I would think about a gig option.
Absolutely, Avik. But see, today we are not talking about the regular scenario or the normal scenario. When you have all the choices, probably you will pick the best one available. But when we don't have all the choices, the best available is picked up. Now, when you hire, as Soumya and Jesse also very beautifully mentioned, that it's all about what you can give to the candidates or people who wish to join your company. Now, it is all today when we talk about resources, why we call them talent, because it's purely about their capabilities. It's purely about their performance, how much value they bring into the table, and how they can directly contribute. When you are part of the system, it's more of an entry to that organization. You are already, working with us. Tomorrow, when you perform well, the gig arrangement is not because of shortcomings at your end. Gig arrangement for at least our system is because our project is such. Tomorrow, when we have a better project where a full timer is required and you have already proved yourself working for a shorter project, we will immediately move you there and we will hire somebody else who is newer and who is trainable. So this is the comfort. At the same time, this is the growth chart that is clearly shared initially. But we all know it's all about business. When we have those positions, we will definitely consider people who are showing interest and who are performing. But when we don't have those options, then whosoever is available and who is the best option suited for the position, they are taken. And I think same concept is accepted and appreciated by the freshers as well.
Did you see a lot of takers for this option this time?
Yes, I mean, when we rolled out, the requirement, we have always received more nominations or more applications than expected. So I would say yes. And when we started working on this model, and I keep myself there, even I feel that I would have definitely not waited for a full-time job to click. Instead, if I'm getting a good learning experience, I would have just joined. And just to ensure that if tomorrow they get a better opportunity, which is a full-time opportunity, we don't ask them to sign a bond or any kind of a document which would say that now that you have joined, we have given this opportunity, you cannot move ahead. So the notice period remains only for 15 days. And if at all they get any better opportunity, they can immediately inform us and they can just go ahead with that. So it's a win-win for both organization as well as the freshers. So yes, I see a lot of takers, and at least for our organization, it has worked out really well.
Okay, wonderful. I mean, that's a very nice angle to actually probably explore, probably deeper. I can probably be in touch with you even after this, to talk aside about, how things are really shaping up. Gig workers, campus placement looks a really a novel concept. Uh, I'll move over to Jesse. I mean, again, I mean, what Ankita was sort of describing. Uh, which are some of the other sectors you feel that this sort of gig model is really working in the campus hiring levels? That's part one. And part two is, when we're talking about a hybrid model going ahead, like what would make a company decide whether to go for a physical interview or whether to just do a virtual one?
Okay, coming to the gig workers, you're asking about other sectors. Yeah,
Yes.
as you know, the first sector would be obviously IT, where people are already exposed to
Correct.
this option. Secondly, in my organization, actually we handle multiple sectors. I am representing an international recruitment firm, and we have a strong healthcare vertical where we recruit doctors for hospitals across the country. Okay, so now in the current context, what we are seeing in healthcare sector is, traditionally many doctors would love to work in one hospital. Of course, they may have their own private practice or their own clinic, etc. parallelly. Right now, in the current situation, due to COVID, in some hospitals they need them only for COVID duty. In some other specialty hospitals, they need for some other specialty department. So many medical doctors, medical professionals who are having their own hospitals, earlier till about 6 months back or till 1 year back, I have seen that they were not allowing doctors to work in other places, right? Full-time job. 6 days working, 8 hours duty, 48 hours per week, end of it. I give you X amount of money based on your specialty or super specialty. You are not supposed to do any private practice as per the offer letter. Now, the same hospitals have started to appreciate the fact that the doctor as a candidate is having the capability and the expertise, but this particular hospital is a, let's say, more of COVID specialty only right now, or they have less patients coming in a particular specialty. At the same time, the doctor is obviously thinking, I am losing another 25K, 50K, 1 lakh earning opportunity by putting myself 48 hours per week, 48 hours per week in a particular hospital, and not being able to get the same kind of a salary. So many hospitals are now renegotiating the contracts, and they are allowing doctors to work at least in the next 6 months to 1 year in multiple hospitals officially. So something like the campus, people who are willing to take up these assignments, which were probably unheard of a year back or 2 years back. In healthcare sector, it is quite normal now, the last 1 year, not only at MBBS level, even MD or MS level, or even at the super specialty level, DM or at MCH level. So this is one sector, Avik, I can directly tell this particular situation is very well accepted right now. I'm not very sure whether any other sectors are embracing it so nicely, but this is one thing which is coming immediately in my mind. Now you asked
Okay.
about the hybrid model. The second part, physical interview and virtual interview. In some of the places where we recruit, for example, Tata Steel is one of my key clients, and for some positions they do only virtual interviews. For some positions, for certain level of final discussion, etc., they expect the candidate to visit their office in Kolkata or visit their office in Jamshedpur, because the position is very strategic in nature. You cannot take a risk by recruiting the candidate, completing all different stages of interviews only through virtual mode, right? Some interaction, you need to get some kind of a body language, some kind of a comfort feel, because it is not about recruiting for today. You are looking for at least 5 years, 10 years kind of a stability of this person in the role. So I would say in junior positions, to a large extent, it is okay to hire virtually, but middle level and above, if there is a possibility, like Dr. Soumya said, I think it's always good to have at least one personal feel about the candidate, because that may completely change your perspective. The initial 4 rounds, you had a particular picture, and now suddenly when you meet the person turns out to be very different in his career aspiration. It's a you were thinking of hiring just by seeing the person, but now you change your mind now. So anything can happen. So I think this hybrid model will continue at least for certain selective positions.
Soumya, you wanted to add something, I'm pretty sure.
No, I'm actually completely, with Jesse on this, because what you see on the screen is absolutely different than the person. So I'll just share a very nice incident that happened with us. So there was this
Please go
guy,
ahead.
very, very, very good designer, right? So when we asked him to come on board, we want to see you and we want to take a virtual interview. The guy comes on the screen, all crumpled t-shirt, disheveled hair and all. And we were like, oh my God, is this the kind of a person that we're going to hire? And it just looked like that he's just woken up. And I don't want to say anything beyond it, but it looks like he had a good night the previous night and he just woke up. And there he was. And I was like, no ways, no ways. This is a big no. I am crossing him out. So my team said, ma'am, let's meet him. Let's not just, because his portfolio is really good. I said, okay, let's see. I said, call him over. I want to meet him there. This guy, this walks in. So I wouldn't say this guy walks in, I would say this dude walks in, okay? So this dude just, waltzed in like that with a light swagger. And the moment he walks in, I said, wow, that's the kind of a designer that I was looking at. Because if you don't have the swag and if you don't have this kind of a feel about you, then I would have rejected a very good resource. And today, he's one of the key designers for that particular portfolio. And he's designing the hip hop jewelry, which needs a lot of swag. So that's where it absolutely changed. Because what I was seeing, I was so So no for it. It was an absolute no to an absolute yes, I want him on board kind of a feeling. So, that's how it changed. So I could
Yeah, I think this
completely
is for the
relate
better.
what
Yeah,
Jess is saying.
sure, sure. Great. We probably need to move over to the questions from the audience, and there are a few that are lined up already. Maybe I'll start with Soumya only. There is Priyanka Sharma, and she asks that how to show a long-term brand value to candidates.
What two? Sorry.
How to show long-term brand value to the candidates during campus interviews.
So one is what your organization's values are and what it stands for. That's very, very, very critical and crucial. Second is that every organization or any organization that goes to any campus is actually also doing marketing of itself. So you need to show them, showcase what are your kind of work that you have done in your particular kind of space. So you can show them a lot of awards and all that your organization would have won. You could show what is the social impact that your organization is carrying forward to. And third is definitely what's in store for the candidates who are walking in by virtue of a career growth, by virtue of what are the peripherals that you're willing to give them. So now, like for us, we started gig in, I think, 2010, when the world was still not open to what gig is all about, because we have all the designers, etc. So they would never want to stick around. We gave flexi timings way back when world didn't even know of what a flexi timing was. And this is a manufacturing setup that I'm talking about. So I had people coming in the product development team and the research and development team coming at 2 a.m. in the morning and sitting the whole night because they wanted a quiet, peaceful environment and working till the morning and then probably going home. So it is all about what you're giving and what are the hook-ons and the latch-ons that you're providing, which would actually excite, entice, and invite the candidates towards the organization.
Great, great. The next question is from Harpreet Singh, and maybe Ankita, you can take this one. He asks that what are the creative ways to engage with campuses virtually?
See, the creative ways or the innovative ways would remain same. I think the medium has changed, the mode has changed. Earlier it was one-to-one, and now you are doing everything online. We have to really understand that there are so many people already doing the same bit when it's about hiring or going for a campus. You really need to stick to basics and do it in the simplest but most relevant way. Understand the need and the approach that should be defined for your organization as well as for the campus. Your employer branding that we initially discussed is important, but is it just one way that you are continuously posting it everywhere and you assume that people will read it, or you are doing some kind of homework where the target college, you are proactively interacting with them, you are sending some stuff, you have created a platform where they can interact and they can know more about the organization. We expect them to be prepared for the interview, but what kind of content we have actually provided, how differently and uniquely we have showcased what matters most and what we are going to get for them when we come and meet them, be it virtually or physically. Now, the one interesting fact that we added when we started doing it virtually, when we used to earlier visit the campus, they always had this platform where they could interact with us directly and ask those questions. When we shifted to virtual model, we started including many testimonials where what percentage of current employees would recommend our organization to their friends, who are the employees who are available to chat and talk about the organization or the current culture, or how actually is the overall environment, do they really enjoy working, do they actually consider Signex Datamatics as their family. So they get that first hand information from the people. So these are few simple but innovative ways when we started going for virtual, we started managing our social media differently, and at the same time, we launched few quizzes and puzzles which had to do more with the organization, and we shared it with the campus people, and we asked them to participate. So these are few ways where the interaction and engagement definitely increased. And when we were right here sharing this screen with them and not being there physical, it looked like we have known each other for a very long time and we are on the same page. And then the discussion was primarily or probably purely about what we can offer and how they can contribute with respect to their skill set and their presence in the organization in a collaborative manner. So this is what we did, literally from a general approach to a personal approach, where we could talk and attend each individual and show them that, we value you and we so much want you to be part of the system.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you, Ankita. Uh, Jesse, you can take the next one. This comes from Pranav Malhotra, and he asks that how to do candidate engagement and pre-evaluation in the virtual landscape.
Okay. Now let me explain about one scenario. Recently, I am part of the committee in Symbiosis University. They have a center in Electronic City in Bangalore. So since 2012, I am part of selecting their students. So till last year, it has been primarily in a physical format. Now this year, the entire thing has gone virtual, right? So a lot of material they used to earlier give it maybe on the day of their arrival into Bangalore to prepare in terms of some of the things, the steps in terms of the interview process and all that. Now, to ensure that you still are able to recruit the best students for the campus in Bangalore, they had to do a lot of things in terms of, for example, there is a written test which was normally conducted on the spot earlier. Now, some of these things were shared to the students much in advance, giving the background of the objective of why they should write it in a particular way. Because if you don't give the right information, students may do it in a particular way and you may evaluate in a different way. Evaluation was happening on that particular day when the panelists were available one full day to do it virtually, right? So whole lot of preparation material about the institution, ensuring that the level of interest of the candidates remain at the same highest level. Because earlier people used to travel to the campus in Bangalore to get a feel of the campus, because Symbiosis University in Pune is having its own reputation, whereas in Bangalore, Hyderabad, these are all relatively maybe 10-year, 15-year-old campuses. So people used to travel from all over the country and see to believe that this is a great place to join, right? Now, how do you still bring in the same kind of excitement virtually, right? So you bring in a lot of people during the interview panel from all kinds of industry background. So you try to showcase that people are actually going through a very, very rigorous selection process. It is not taken for granted. So people have gone through they've gone through some of the IIMs and maybe other B schools. So when they come here, they should still feel that whether I get selected or not, the process I went through is really good. I have learned a whole lot of stuff about my ability in terms of my, will I get an admission in Symbiosis or not? That's a separate issue. At least is it helping me to get an admission in another B school, which I'm going to face the interview process tomorrow, day after tomorrow. If there we are able to add some value, I think it is, that itself is a great achievement, I would say. So it's all about selling from the beginning till the end of the entire process, not just about one piece of the process.
Got it, got it. We have two more questions, and both are from Deepak Sejwal, and maybe I'll throw one to Ankita, one to Soumya. He asks that as a fresher, how do you prepare for virtual placement drives? Ankita, you want to have a crack at this?
For virtual interview?
As a fresher, how do you prepare for these virtual placements?
Okay, so you have to start believing that virtual world is the real world. because there's no running away from this. We may think that tomorrow we'll be working on a combination where companies will start coming to campus, but there will always be a mix. As Soumya also mentioned, Dr. Jesse as well, the hybrid model is here to stay. It is not going anywhere. When we tomorrow we are working, for instance, you get recruited through a face-to-face interview and a company is there in your campus, there is no guarantee that tomorrow when you start working for the company and you start collaborating with your team members, you will get to meet them. There's a higher possibility that you end up doing Zoom calls and you keep interacting on video calls. So it's really important to master the art. Now, if somebody would ask me, I want to go ahead with HR as my career, what should I be doing? I would say do a specialization course so that you know the basics, and then just as per the trend, you just keep updating yourself. When we talk about virtual world, I would say we really need to invest and we need to know really well how this world works. What should be the body language? Where should I be looking? What would be the frame? What all should be seen? What all should not be seen? What's the right time? Like Dr. Soumya mentioned, her first impression when the other person got onto a call. Why it's so important? Because we get onto a call with some expectation. So that expectation is very basic. Nothing that has to be, inculcated, or a magic has to be created for any individual to understand. Just the basics of, internet or the virtual world that has to be learned. And thankfully, we have YouTube, we have Google, a permanent free full-time teacher. People should take full use of that and they should be ready. So one line answer, you have to learn to exist in this world, which is virtual, and accept that it's going to be a real world, even though it's named as a virtual world.
Thank you for those inputs, Ankit. I think, yeah, learn to live in this world. Yeah, I mean, though it's virtual, I think that's a fair point. Last question for this evening, and Soumya, you got to take this one. Very similar to what we discussed right at the beginning of the show. Deepak asks that they've started giving the excuse that COVID. Okay, no, let me just go through the question once again. He asks that should we negotiate on the relevant CTCs or the hikes, or feel obliged to these companies that at least we have a job in this pandemic? I think millions of people probably have thought have the same idea. What do you think?
So I would say that irrespective of the COVID scenarios, I've seen youngsters have a sense of entitlement. मुझे ये designation तो मिलना ही चाहिए, मुझे ऐसी chair तो होनी ही चाहिए. I need to have a cabin. There's no entitlement except learning. So then just that's the only entitlement you are open to. We are giving you a salary because we believe in you and we wish that when you come and walk in our premises, you would add as much value to us as we are adding to you. So please do not have a sense of negotiation built in herein. All right? There's no negotiations there. Second is, please come and do negotiate on what are the learnings that would be imparted. If you're not happy with the learnings, if you're not happy with the environment around you, which you feel is more claustrophobic than a nurturing, please voice it. Please do not negotiate on the monetary. You're very young, even a sustainable allowance for you is good. You're staying with your parents or you're staying in a rented place, you still don't have yours. First, learn the tricks of survival, then build on it. It's like, any building that needs to be built has to first create a foundation. The deeper the foundation, the stronger the building. So first, create those foundations for you. Second, have a very, very, very open, mindset to learning and absorbing. Become the knowledge sponge. Even at this age, I am studying MA in psychology. I've already done my PhD. So people ask me why? Because you constantly need to evolve, you constantly need to learn. So that is what I would tell them. that please do not stop. Job मिल गई, promotion तो हो जाएगा, whether time bound है या fast track है, promotion मिल जाएगा. So I stopped my learnings. It can't be like that. So remove the sense of entitlement, remove salary negotiation unless and until it has been really unfair, then please do voice. But third is, please be the knowledge sponge, and there is nothing in this world that can stop you from moving ahead in life. That is what I would say.
On a lighter note, you can understand a seasoned HR speaking here.
Abhi, just to add to
Go
what
ahead,
Dr. Soumya said,
please.
yeah, just to add to what Dr. Soumya said, one simple statement I keep telling my employees in all my previous companies and in my current company: don't go after money. You go after large responsibilities.
Yeah.
Moment I take on a larger responsibility, moment I show that I'm willing to take on a larger responsibility, companies pay for the position. Companies pay for your capability. Not companies don't pay for my qualification. Companies pay for my years of experience. It is irrelevant. What is relevant is, am I willing to take on more responsibilities? Again, I should not be thinking I will take this role, then what is going to be added? That will come later. I should be focused on taking on more and more and more and higher responsibilities. Company will be forced to do what is required. That's a better way to negotiate than saying, if I do this, will you give me 500 rupees more? If I do this, then it becomes very difficult, right? It becomes very difficult to continue to engage with that employee. Yeah, just I wanted to share my perspective here.
Very fair point. I think in today's scenario, I mean, everybody thinks that I'm doing something, I'm doing X, I'm taking up responsibility Y. What am I actually gaining out of it in these current times? Probably this debate can go on, but I think you have hit the nail in the coffin. I mean, both you and Jesse and Soumya. Great. Let me check whether we have any more questions from the audience. We do not have any, and we have anyways run out of time, so we need to probably close this. Thank you, guys, so much once again for taking your time out and attending this, sharing your thoughts and views on this. Again, another pressing matter. Good to have you again with us, and we hope just that we meet again sometime in the future, and that's pretty soon. So that's how I would like to wrap it up. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you so much. Pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Yeah.
Bye bye. Bye.